There's this vitality that he's like seeking in a connection, whether it's physical, where it's like actually interacting with the environment, like being in the world, like a Maria, like a Rachel, or a Daisy or a Jess, which is a vitality of like the soul.
Maria just like is trying to beat the truth over Madina's head, but Madina's like, no, I'm still actually just feeling through these weird, complicated feelings.
Exactly.
Because I'm a human living in society, and in society, this is what I'm told, and I have to deal with those feelings. I can't just pretend that I don't have them. And Maria's just trying to skip to like the evolved version. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're back again this week for another Bachelor recap. Today we're recapping episode 2 of Joey's season of The Bachelor.
Joey, I'm falling for you!
For those of you who don't know us, we're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially The Bachelor. So if you're into this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation. You can also listen to us in podcast form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Okay, so we are in week 2, and I feel like this is a good season. I already feel that way. Like, maybe it's Joey. He seems to really be connecting with a lot of people. We immediately get into this really fun group date. Usually I hate group dates that are based on wedding dresses, and like a first date with a guy having to get dressed in a wedding dress is so awkward. But this season I was like, this is actually kind of entertaining, actually. And I really feel like there were some new people who were starting to show a genuine connection with Joey.
Oh, absolutely. I have a new frontrunner now, and it's Rachel. I think the way that she handled that toast, the way that she and Joey's personalities meshed together, I am really understanding more of the personality that he's looking for, and I think he's looking for a compliment. She's very gracious, she's super fun, she's very understated, and I think those qualities, interestingly enough, it like really synergizes with Joey's personality. I think he's a little bit subdued, but once you like unpack, there's so much there, and Rachel feels like that exact same energy, and she's kind of becoming one of my new favorites. They had that really beautiful dance, and I think the way that she even was able to come up with that toast off the bat, I could not have done that. Like, I wouldn't have been able to not only make it something that complimented him, but also made fun of the situation they were in. I really, really like her for him. So I hope she continues to like show up this season.
Yeah, I agree. She was someone who I did not notice at all week
at
one
all.
On the first night. Like, I don't remember her limo entrance. I just don't really remember her at all. But this episode, I was like, oh, she's cute. She's interesting. One thing that I really noticed is that Joey was really appreciating people who were like bringing it and really bringing the like engagement. So he like really appreciated, who was it who jumped over the table?
Yes. Oh my God. I forgot. But she was probably, that's why that scene was so iconic. Like, that's why I loved that date.
I think it was Evelyn, right? So Evelyn jumps over this table, and Joey seemed to think it was really entertaining. And I think he really appreciated how much effort she put into that. And then same with Rachel, because she came up with that toast and she was super engaged in this like funny little group setting that they were in. I think Joey just like really appreciated it. And that was a consistent theme throughout the episode. I think he really appreciated people who were really giving it their all and putting a lot of energy into whatever the activity was, as opposed to maybe like sitting on the sidelines. Even though he did notice the people, such as Lauren, who was like, I think, having some tough emotions related to her father having recently passed away, being in a wedding scenario. I think that made her emotional. Joey did like catch on to the girls who were in the background, but I do think he really appreciated the girls who were willing to kind of put themselves out there and really be in the situation with him. I think he has a real appreciation for people who are really willing to show up in the process and really show up such that he can like really like feel their personalities.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand not only Joey's type more, but the kind of how oppositional his types can be. Like, he really likes that bold energy, but then he really loves that sweet, not like a wallpaper per se, but somebody that maybe isn't so forward as well.
I totally agree. I think there are these two maybe archetypes of people that draw Joey in. One is the more kind of like bold fireball energy, kind of like Maria, who also began to shine a lot in this episode. I mean, she was shining last week too, but I feel like in this episode, she really kind of came in with some hot main character energy. Maybe a little bit of like a villain edit, even though we'll get into her conflict with some of the other girls, because I'm a little bit Team Maria in the situation, but we'll get there. But
you love the bad girls. That is like true. Kelly's guilty pleasure in The Bachelor. It's like bad girls that are just like firecrackers.
It's not me. That wouldn't be me. I mean, I am a big Victoria Fuller stan. I did love Crystal in Ari's season. All right, so I have a couple of villains that I tend to love, but I'm not a villain lover. So in the evening portion of this group date, Maria had like a whole little bit about like, I'm gonna change into something a little bit more comfortable, and she like changed outfits in the middle of her time with Joey, which it definitely worked on him. But he even said during that bit, he was like, I want to like get to know you better, but all I can focus on are your tits. I mean, he didn't use the word tits, but that was basically what he said. He was like, now all I can do is make out with you. But I think that it worked.
It worked. She's an amazing flirt. Watching her on TV is a masterclass on how to get someone's attention, and I think that she's so charismatic. She could have chemistry with like a tree. I think that she is just so like, Maria just has like really big bachelorette energy. I think that the producers would want her because she kind of just like came in and completely like knocked Joey off of his feet. He was like just sitting there being like, I really want to get to know you. And she was like, I'm going to change into like a bra and I'm going to come back and let's talk about this. Let's continue the conversation. I just don't know any red-blooded man that could hold back in that moment and be like, tell me about your childhood. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think Maria would just be that interesting on her season if that's the direction they're going towards. But I felt a little bit more of like, I don't know if she likes Joey as much as she likes the attention that she can easily get from him. I think she's a girl that's very used to having her way. It was just like really funny to see the two of them interact, because you said this last episode and now I totally agree. I don't think that Joey is her type, but I think Maria could be Joey's type because she possesses that like boldness that he really values in partners, because it brings out this like electricity from him.
Yeah. I kind of see what you're saying, that I'm not sure if ultimately he is the right person for her, because I think that I think she could really have the pick of the litter in terms of like
absolutely
the types of guys. And and I really like Joey, but I just don't know that he is going to bring out like all of the fun parts of her. But then again, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it is like an opposites attract thing. Maybe someone with such a big personality like values someone with a softer side like Joey. So I will be interested to see them have more conversations beyond just like the physical attraction, which was kind of front and center in this moment. But my hot take though about this is I kind of loved the dress that Maria first came out in, like that white dress.
Yes.
I was like, when she first came out, I was like, whoa, like Maria, like the way it was cut, like super short. I was a little bit like, humana. And then she changed into the bra dress, which was also hot, but I was kind of like, was the white dress a little sexier? I don't sorry, this was like an aside about fashion, but
but you're totally right, because the white dress was super sexy, but then she came out with major siren energy. I think just the change of like the variety
attitude,
like that's what I'm saying. She's so aware of like how to get a man's attention.
Maria understands the straight man like very well.
1,000%. I actually think it was a smart play for her that she didn't open up during that date, and she kept going in with the physical chemistry. I mean, Joey is going to keep her around. He's gonna want to know like more about how she surprises him, and he's gonna want to like peel back those layers. And I think she's a question that he's gonna spend the entire season wanting to answer, because it's like, which side of her am I gonna get? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, Maria, well done. Like, you know how to play your cards. Yeah,
you're right. I think that some people might view what Maria is doing as like, oh, she's like jumping the gun and like getting into the physical stuff too fast. But in a weird way, to your point, it's almost like she's playing with a slow burn, because she is almost like teasing the good part of the relationship, which is obviously the emotional connection. She's like,
yes,
you know, Joey's so curious. He's kind of like, I want to know more about you, but like, I guess we're going to hook up now because you're so hot. So it's like almost like, you're right. She's like kind of inviting him to keep her around, to get to know her in this slow, organic way, as opposed to like, let's immediately get in and talk about my whole backstory. So it is kind of setting her up for this like longer story, and to have her just be this figure in the back of Joey's mind that he is still curious about unpacking, as opposed to maybe some other people who are revealing a lot right away. Not that you have to like play it like a game, but I kind of feel like if it was a game, Maria's playing it well.
Maria wrote the game book. Physical chemistry or attraction is a really big part of a relationship, and every woman there is they're all so stunning, but she's doing something a little bit extra with like the novelty, the surprise, the humor, that Joey is intrigued. And I think by the time they emotionally open up, she is going to be making it pretty far, like at least top 4, top 6 minimum, because he is going to continue to keep her around. I know the teasers were indicating that there was even some, you know, like there was conflict in the next episode, but it kind of makes me think about like Hannah Brown and Luke. Like sometimes you keep around people that have conflict because you like them so much. And I kind of think that Joey's going to fall into that same cycle. But maybe that's my hypothesis.
Interesting. Yeah, that does sometimes happen. Or like Nick Viall and Corinne kept her around.
Yes. They were actually a good match. Yeah, they were really good.
Taking us back to the OGs.
Way back to many seasons. But yeah, Joey's is like, you know, classic Bachelor in this moment.
We'll circle back to Maria because she does have a conflict that we want to get into related to age, but a lot of interesting new people that Joey is vibing with. And then we kind of get into our Daisy and Joey one-on-one date. And I think everyone and their mom is rooting for these two. I think most people see that these two have a really good, genuine connection. And it's not too hard to see on their faces. I don't even really have much to say about them because I think you just watch the date and it's like, wow, that's a good vibe. I think he was super into her. And I really think that Joey is the type of person who, in addition to, there's these two archetypes we were starting to say, he likes that person who's really engaged and who's going to put themselves out there and really be present and potent in the process. And then I think the other personality type that he really likes, or the other thing that he's really drawn to, is a kind of raw vulnerability. I think he really likes people. This comes back to Jess, who got that group date rose. Jess opened up about her like emotional issues with people in the house and her backstory with having infidelity in her past relationships, and she was just getting a little bit emotional in the process. And I kind of feel like Joey liked that. He like leaned in more to that relationship, which had previously just been like kind of fun and like we kissed on the first night and we're just kind of like goofing around. But I think when she started to show some of her vulnerabilities, he was very drawn into that. And it wasn't in the same way as, you know, every season, you know, everyone is kind of encouraged to like share something hard about their stories and their background. Everyone is kind of like pushed to do that. And, you know, it's like, it's whatever. It's part of just like getting to know each other's backgrounds. But for Joey, I don't think it's not just that he wants to understand their backstory. I think he also really likes to see people who are willing to be in their feelings and in their emotions and present in their emotions. And so I think when Jess showed this, Joey kind of leaned into that relationship more. And I feel the same way about Daisy. When Daisy opened up about her history with Lyme disease and these health issues and her hearing loss, I feel like Joey, I mean, you can see him physically like leaning into her. I think
it's all in his face.
Yeah, so I think he really is attracted to that rawness, that realness, that like emotional potency, or like that emotional vulnerability. I think he is really drawn to that, and the girls who are willing to go there with him, I think, are the girls who are gonna catch his eye and go far. So Daisy is obviously one of them because she clearly like owns her story and is very willing to be vulnerable and open about her story. But I think even someone like Jess, who is just like, oh, I'm having all of these feelings, let me show them to you. Even Lauren, the older sister, who was like a little annoying in this episode, but Lauren was opening up about her grief about her dad. And even that, like, I was like, is Joey into this?
Yeah.
Like, wow, he's like he's like giving her a lot of attention, and I kind of think that he just likes that vulnerable, like seeing that vulnerable side of people, because I think maybe it just like helps him feel like actually connected to someone, as opposed to we're in such a fake situation. Like maybe that's something that he is looking for, like that spark of something real.
Ooh, I love your point, especially the words raw vulnerability, because it made me think there's this vitality that he's like seeking in a connection, whether it's physical, where it's like actually interacting with the environment, like being in the world, like a Maria, like a Rachel, or a Daisy or a Jess, which is a vitality of like the soul. It's like this emotional like aliveness that you feel when you're in conversation with them. Like Joey's really picking up on this, it's almost like a life force energy, like this thing where he's like really being present to this emotion of like, oh my gosh, I'm really excited by this person and how they're moving in the world, or I'm excited about how they're moving in their emotional internal landscape. I can see him being really stimulated by that based on what you said. I forgot that I forgot that they're kind of painting her as a villain because she kept kissing and for some reason I literally completely forgot about her that episode. But you're right, like she opened up about it, and I thought, is he going to be annoyed? Is he going to be able to attend to her emotions and actually respond to it? And Joey is very, very good at holding space. He's like, take a second, let's breathe. He coached several women through that actually last night's episode.
You're right. I
like,
noticed
take
that
a breather,
too.
it's okay. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you're so sweet. And it's like all Joey is doing is like expanding the moment, and he's very good at it. Yeah, I really like that point that you made. I can see that being like what Joey's looking for in a partner.
You articulated it so well too. It's like that vitality, that little spark of something that like feels like real, you know?
Yes.
Like whether it's in the environment or internally, that like kind of richness of character, I think, is what he is looking for. And you know, it's found in different ways, whether it's the kind of Maria path or the more Daisy path. It's like there's different ways to find that, but I think that's what he is looking for.
So what do you think about our Joey theory? Do you think we're on target? And what do you think about the new frontrunners? Are there any girls that are kind of moving forward? Let us know in the comments down below. By the way, guys, we are on Instagram. Come find us on there. We're posting a lot of quick takes, behind the scenes filming, and a lot of thoughts about the latest like Bachelor news of Joey's season and just in the fandom in general. You can always DM us, and we're always down to talk, so we hope to see you over there.
One other person that I wanted to briefly touch on was Edwina, who in the second group date, which was this really cute paintball competition thing hosted by Demi and Jubilee, which by the way was adorable but pointless as usual. Like it's just fun TV, but yeah, exactly. It was whatever. But the thing that did matter about it is, once again, Edwina was the one who was really coming through on that date, being really engaged. Her personality was so rich and potent. I think that's what drew Joey to her and why Joey picked her for the special one-on-one alone time after the date. The two of them got together to have basically like a little mini one-on-one, which was super cute, and we got to get a little bit of Edwina's backstory. And what she talked about was the experience of being an eldest daughter, which is something that I feel like a lot of people have been talking about this more on social media. I see a lot of this conversation starting to happen among people who were the eldest daughters in their families and who are kind of coming out about what that experience is like and the kind of unique stressors that come with being the eldest daughter. Eldest daughters are so often expected to take on so many of the family responsibilities, the caretaking responsibilities, and kind of the emotional burdens of the family, and in a way that I think other children aren't. Even eldest sons don't tend to deal with this level of kind of emotional responsibility that eldest daughters tend to be saddled with. And I'm so happy that Edwina brought it up, because I feel like people don't realize that this is actually a common experience until they realize that, oh, actually all eldest daughters, not all, but many eldest daughters go through this. And so I was really happy to hear Edwina talking about it. You know, I feel like eldest daughters are like tasked with managing everyone's needs in the family, or like everyone's needs and everyone's emotions, and they're kind of expected to be the mature and balanced perspective, like in all of the conflicts. And then of course she has to be professionally successful and be a role model to the younger siblings, and You know, she's like sometimes expected to even contribute to the household. And Edwina said it so well that like she felt like she essentially was taking on like a mothering role from a very young age. And she also mentioned that she is originally from Liberia, and so there may also be like a Liberian or larger like West African cultural aspect to this that I might not fully understand. But I hope we get to learn more about Edwina's story and kind of her experiences of being an eldest daughter, you know, in her family and in her culture. If you're an eldest daughter listening to this, like, share down below in the YouTube comments, or like send us a DM. I'm like curious. I just feel like this is something that a lot of people are starting to realize, like there is a lot of commonality in this experience, and I was just happy to see the conversation being brought up, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is the really cool thing about Joey's season and the diversity of the season is that we get really interesting conversations, and her centering her perspective and the responsibility that she felt and how it uniquely shaped her life and her experiences. It's really beautiful to kind of hear her be able to articulate those things and to say, yeah, like growing up and having to be a role model for my siblings, there's beauty in that, but then there's also a lot of pressure of you don't get to just be a kid, which I think is very essential. I think that it's essential that everybody feels like within the siblings, there's able to be the support, but I do think that the eldest sister can stand alone. I didn't grow up as an older sister. I'm the middle child, but in my family, like I do have an oldest sister. Yeah. So, I mean, middle child is actually very true to the stereotypes, at least in my experience. And my sister, who is the oldest, is like she's very together. Like whenever we go on vacation, I almost never pack extra things I need, because she'll have a first aid kit, medicines, like every extra shoes, extra outfits for me, just in case I need it, because she's always thinking ahead. And I remember thinking, I love her organization. I love the way that she is so thoughtful about these things. But over time I realized, oh my God, she always had to think about those things growing up, and it became something that became a part of her personality, for better and worse, you know?
Yes.
But I really love her sharing that, and it made me think a lot about my older sister.
Absolutely. I also, as a youngest stereotypes, kind of true.
Oh my gosh, Kelly, I love it for you.
But, you know, I also have, my sister is the eldest of our family as well, and I think about her all the time during this type of discourse. Same thing. She's always like has it together. She's like the one who like whenever there's like drama in the family, literally every person is talking to her about their beef with other people in the family. It's like that poor girl is just fielding everyone's like little mini fights, and like I think about all of the pressure she has to have as like the kind of mature impartial party who's like everyone's BFF in the family, and it's like that's a lot of pressure to deal with. And, you know, everyone just kind of expects her to have the right ideas or to, like, know the right thing to do. And it's a hard position to be in. So, yeah, I would be curious to hear below what everyone else's experiences of this are, whether you are the eldest daughter or if you have an eldest sister in your family. Like, what's the sibling dynamics with you guys? Because this is an interesting conversation, and I really do feel like people don't realize how much commonality there is in this experience until people start talking about it. So let's definitely keep the conversation going down below, and shout out to Edwina for bringing this up.
By the way, if you watch this point in the video and you're not subscribed to our channel yet, please hit that subscribe button. We do this every single week, and we recap every episode of The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, all of the shows. So please subscribe and follow along.
So let's get into this whole Maria, Sydney, Madina conflict, because this was starting to be a main theme at the end of the episode, and it feels like that's going to be a big theme next week. So Madina brings up at the end of one of the group dates, or after one of the group dates when she's talking to the girls, she brings up that she really wishes she got more time. She mentions that she is 31 and the oldest among the batch of the women, and she expresses this idea that she feels like her time is limited. It's actually funny though, because immediately after she says it, she's like, oh my God, I regret saying that out loud. So even she kind of like caught it. Like after she said it, she's like, oh God, I wish this didn't end up being a thing. And then we see Maria go off and talk to somebody else, being like, oh my God, Madina should just own it. Like she like kind of like goes into this little like rant about the whole concept of age and how it plays into dating. in my opinion, I don't think she actually says anything bad. She's just kind of like, oh my gosh, like Madina's so freaking hot, and she should just like own it. Like there's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm also, I forgot how old she was, 28, 29, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. She's like, I'm also one of the older girls here, and like, you know, I'm not like worried about it. So like she kind of like goes into this little mini rant. But then someone else, Sydney, overhears. Sydney's like, oh my gosh, Maria is shit-talking Madina. And then it turns into this whole drama. So it starts to become a little bit of a conflict, and it feels like that's going to continue into next week. I don't know. I was kind of skeptical of this villain edit, though, because I didn't really feel like Maria was saying anything negative about Madina. I don't know. What did you think about it, Julie?
I mean, I feel like she's a hype person, but it wasn't the right moment to hype her up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you say an insecurity that's like really private and secret, and also completely, it's not true. Like, her being 31, her time is not limited. She has so much. And I think the ageism in The Bachelor continues to always show up on the seasons, which is so frustrating that they think once you're 30 and above, you're over the hill. There's no hope. You're, you know, like, it's just such a frustrating story that they always cling on to. I felt like when Madina was like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't say it. I, like, for Maria to then be like, you know what? She's just the hot, like, I feel like it would make me feel a little bit worse. Like, I don't want this praise in this moment, because I am embarrassed by what I said. I know that it's not true. But I think that, like, it's hard because that is Maria's personality. And if she's in your corner, she's in your corner, and she's going to make her corner known. She's going to have posters. She's going to have a cheering section. She's going to have, like, a megaphone.
I fucking love you!
Yeah. She's going to be wearing the pins. Yes, like, Maria is very, she's very, very bold. So I think that I kind of can see the villain was just like, it was giving so much producer energy of like, they're just trying to make something happen that doesn't need to happen. The energy is just getting really, really intense, because I think everyone is getting just very jealous. Did you feel that at all?
I don't know. It's hard for me to really understand. I think Maria, maybe it's coupled with the fact that she came out in that sexy outfit, which I think can trigger a lot of insecurities in other people when they see someone else owning their sexuality. It can kind of trigger our sense of like, oh, I'm not doing that. Am I less than? No, let's make her sexuality the problem. No, actually, she's the problem. She's annoying. She's shameless. And then that can kind of turn into, oh, well, she's just annoying. And so, oh, she said this thing about Madina. I already don't like her. Let me turn it into like a whole big thing. Like, and it kind of spirals. People like latched on to this age thing to be like, wow, Maria sucks, you know, even though it was a little bit of like, you're right. I kind of agree with what you said of it was like not the right moment, and it was a little bit invalidating of Madina's experience, because yes, I agree with you and Maria. It should go without saying, being 31 is not old. Like,
you're fine. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, literally, it's like people's lives are like just beginning around age 30. Like, I don't know how else. I mean, we talk about this like every season. It's like, many of your favorite celebs and influencers are also 30 plus. Like, these days, it is more and more common for people who are interested in marriage and children to wait until their 30s to do those things. Like, that is, I don't know how else to put it. Like, people are recognizing that in our 20s, we are literally just baby adults. Like, we are baby adults figuring out the world ourselves, who we are, what we want to do, whatever, establishing ourselves, our career, our wealth, whatever, having fun, all of those things. That's what we're doing in our 20s. Our brains are like not even fully developed. Like, I just think this whole conversation, every time we have it, I'm like, come on, guys, like, come on.
I know.
Like, and I even have this pet theory. I actually personally think people get hotter in their 30s, women specifically. I think women get really hot, like, in their 30s.
I agree.
I just think they like know themselves better. I think they're more confident and at ease, and that like literally projects in how they outwardly present themselves. And so I literally just think women get really hot in their 30s, not even just like in a fluffy way. Like, I actually think they're just like hot in their 30s.
I wish that The Bachelor kind of started to have different, like, they started to cast an older age in terms of like maybe it's 27 to like in their 40s, like something instead of like the Bachelor and then the Golden Bachelor, like please give us the in between of that. And Bachelor in Paradise has a little bit of that, but I think that would resolve a lot of the ageism that happens, especially in your 20s, when you feel like anything outside of that is ancient, it's super old, you're over the hill, there's no hope for you. If you're not married, this means this about you. Goodness. All of those theories, I think it continues to get supported by this maybe people.
Audience.
Exactly. I think
the younger contestants.
Exactly. Like they just feel like, oh my gosh, that feels like so long from now, but it's not. Like you're also going to be 30, and how would you want people to talk about, like everybody's going to have that experience. I think Maria made it a more interesting take by how she was like, it's amazing. She's like this attractive and really going in on it. But I can see that Maria's big energy is going to rub girls the wrong way because she isn't afraid to not only stand up for herself, but other people in the house. And that will kind of put her at odds with some of the women.
I think you're totally right. I think I really resonate with Maria in a lot of ways because sometimes when people have like wrong guy ideas, I just want to be like, your ideas are wrong. Like, don't say that. Don't feel that way. Like sometimes I just like really want to like push the truth on people. But like, you know, to your point, it's like we live in an ageist society. Like that's just that is the truth of it. You might mentally know that there's nothing shameful about being over the age of 30. You might like know that, but it's different from actually like feeling it in your body because we live in an ageist society, one that shames us for women for crossing over a certain age threshold, and that's like what we're inundated with. We're inundated with those messages, and especially for women who are over the age of 30 without kids or unmarried or whatever it is, like there's so much shame that is applied to women in those positions. And so if you feel shame over it, it's like that kind of makes sense. Like it makes sense why you would, because we are kind of given that kind of messaging and it's coming from our environment. So, you know, there's nothing inherently shameful or embarrassing or old about being over 30, but at the same time, it's like that is the toxic ass messaging we are getting from our culture. So it makes sense why people would feel this way. So it's like a little bit of a both and. It's like Maria just like is trying to beat the truth over Madina's head, but Madina's like, no, I'm still actually just feeling through these weird, complicated feelings.
Exactly.
Because I'm a human living in society, and in society, this is what I'm told, and I have to deal with those feelings. I can't just pretend that I don't have them. And Maria's just trying to skip to like the evolved version. Yeah, exactly. She's like skipping the feeling part of it and getting right into like, no, we're like empowered women like stage, and like sometimes you gotta feel through it first.
That's very well stated what you said, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's not like Maria was out of her place necessarily, but Maria's also like not as, she's a few years younger than Madina. And I think Maria is maybe not used to, I think she's used to kind of having her pick and having a lot of agency in her life. So she probably isn't aware of like the true lived experience that some people can feel, especially if they have goals that they want to accomplish and maybe they're not there yet. That is a vulnerability that needs to be held, not something you need to cheer your way through and be like, you're so strong for doing this, because even that feels hollow. That feels inauthentic to kind of be like, I'm just gonna like know that I'm just super sexy and I'm just gonna, you know, get any man I want. Like that doesn't, it's a little bit invalidating, I think. But Maria had her intentions in the right place. Her delivery was a little bit off, but I mean, I would want someone like that in my corner.
Yeah, I guess you need a little bit of both energies. And I feel like Sydney, the person who kind of like brought up that Maria was putting out the wrong energy, I feel like Sydney was like the voice of this perspective of like, you know, we shouldn't invalidate the way Madina feels. But then at the same time, Sydney was like bringing that point up while also being like, Maria's just so annoying, and like kind of like trashing Maria. So then it was like starting to all get sticky and like harder to pull apart who's right in this situation or who is in the wrong. It was like harder to pull it apart, but it's complicated. These are like complicated emotions from people who are living in a weird, complicated society with a lot of messages that we're all trying to like parse through at the same time. And so I was frustrated by Sydney for blowing it out of proportion, but I do think that there was a hint of validity to what she was saying, which is that, you know, Madina needed the space to process these emotions and not just to be slapped over the head by Maria's cheerleading.
Yeah, absolutely. So let us know what you thought about the conflict. Do you feel like the age trope is kind of getting outdated and it's really hard to watch? Did you feel like Maria was in the right to really take care of Madina's feelings, or was Madina needing some space to really process what she was going through? Let us know in the comments down below.
So I'm kind of interested to see where this whole Maria, Sydney, Madina conflict leads us. It feels like that's going to be a big theme for next week, so we'll see more of this play out and see how the girls are handling this conflict. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you don't miss any of our recaps. We'll be recapping every single episode of Joey's season. You can also find us on podcasts, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So we will see you next week for the next Bachelor recap. Bye!
Bye!